Oh, g'day champions, it's road trip time. Long time viewers probably know that every New Year's Eve I do a video about something that's interesting, about a person usually that's interesting, kind of unrelated to the usual channel content, although that's saying a lot for me because I do tend to be a bit of a rambling channel, that's the way I roll. But today we're doing a road trip, we're going to see Craig, he owns a brewery. It's called Brew Mountains, it's at Valley Heights, which is in the lower Blue Mountains. It's tucked down from the highway, just in a small industrial area there. And he's built his own canning line from scratch, him and his mate John. So there will be some technical content, some electronics involved, mechanical engineering, that kind of thing. I love seeing this kind of, not only did it start off being homebrew beer, but homebrew technology. DIY stuff, anything you can do, I can do better attitude. I love it. And we're gonna have a sit down and chat. We're gonna see the canning line in action, and we're gonna talk about the tech behind it and a little bit of his history. So happy New Year, champions. Join us for the ride. Sit down, grab a beer, relax. So anyone trying to find Craig is down behind Bunnings here. Bunnings is our like Home Depot equivalent, I guess, for you Yanks. So champions, here we are. We've got Craig and John from Brew Mountains Brewery. We'll show you some footage of their amazing canning line shortly. But firstly, introduce yourselves. What's your role?
Well, my name's Craig. I'm the head brewer and the owner of the brewery. We've been going about 6 years, 3 years where we are right now. And probably the key thing about the brewery for us is that it's a small local brewery, and we've grown organically within the region from starting off in my garage where John is probably the only member of the brewery team who's been on board probably 5 out of the 6 years. I had 1 year of struggling before John came along and started helping me out, because I can make beer, I can do lots of things, but there's certain aspects of the brewery that I can't do. Pretty compact. We end up moving things around quite a lot. So in the brewery area, where not a lot of space. When we open the bar, this is just full of kegs and other stuff, but today's a working day, so we've got 6 fermenters, 500 litre fermenters, which will essentially give us around about hopefully 10 kegs each, depending on the beer. Each one of them has got its own cooling system, which we've plumbed in ourselves. It's got a glycol system. Rather than having one giant glycol system, each one's got its own smaller one. So there's 3 of them behind there. We've got 3 over there. During the winter months as well, we need to raise the temperature of the fermenters. We've got a warming system as well, which warms up each fermenter. Right now we're in the summer, we don't need that. So for a lot of breweries, like if you go further west into Orange, for example, it's proper cold in winter, so you need to be able to raise the temperature of your fermenters. And fermentation generates its own exothermic temperature, but it's sometimes not enough in winter to bring you up to say 22 for conditioning a beer. And this is the keg washer. So when we first started, we used to wash manually by hand, and it would take the whole day to wash 5 to 6, 7 kegs, the whole day. Wow. Now I can put this on, it's a dual head keg washer, and as long as it's up to temperature, I can just, while I'm brewing or washing, cleaning the fermenter, kegging off, or doing anything else, I could just walk past, put 2 new kegs on, press a button, and it just blasts with that compressed air out, hot water, rinses, hot caustic, and then sanitizes with hot water, and then blows out the air with CO2, and then pops it, and that's just a couple of minutes for each keg.
These are just things you don't even think about.
This is 10 grand, probably the best 10 grand I've ever spent on anything in my life.
So you got 6 fermenters in total? Yeah,
6 500 litre fermenters, which will give 10 kegs. We brew once a week, so I think we're doing the maths on that. It's not big, it's maybe 30,000 litres a year, so it's not huge, but then 80% of our beer stays at the brewery and goes on tap via the glass. Well, let's get this belt on. Here we go. It's pretty simple, there's hardly any buttons at all. So we're going to turn off the purge and go straight into fill, yeah? You're the boss. That's right. The one thing we have to adjust straight away are the fill levels. That purges CO2. Yeah, there's no head, or hardly any head, which is good and bad. Alright, here we go. so far, John. That's filling nicely. This is where we do a little dance. And then it goes wrong, so we're not going to dance. Today's no dancing, it's been banned.
Yeah. Don't dance. Alright, do a quick dance.
Oh my word, yeah.
Do you,
so everything, we don't want to jinx it, because everything's going really well. I mean, this is the fourth time this is run.
Does it still give you the same excitement as when you first ran it? Every time?
Oh, I'm more excited now because there's so many things that can go wrong. We've got a lot of sensors in place that check whether the lids are there, whether the cans are there, and whether there's a lid on and so on. But it's just taken many years to get to this point, and we've done the whole development ourselves. So yeah, it's really exciting. We've had a lot of disappointments, which is, you've got to be good at failing. In order to succeed, you can't expect to get it right first time, otherwise you learn nothing. This is where we show up now. We get so confident in what it's doing that I will start putting cans in place.
The new one won't do that. I promise. We've had a few other problems that won't do that.
We found some things out really the hard way. This was hard to do this, get a tower of things into. It looks simple. Getting single little knife that chops them off one at a time. Just something simple. There's so many things that need to happen at the same time. Like just simple things like finding out the hard way that when you're canning a fermenter, you've got the head pressure on the fermenter, let's call it 1 bar or 12 psi, and as you start to can, you get less volume, and therefore you get less gravity as well as the head pressure, and that can affect the way that you can beer. So we built in a head pressure compensator, if you like, which maintains a consistent pressure throughout the canning process, and you can buy them independently. We didn't even know they existed. We just kind of worked out we needed to do it, and then we looked into it afterwards when another brewery said, how do you do that? And we said, well, it's built into our machine, but you can buy them independently. They're pretty expensive, but ours does it automatically. Not that I'm showing off, not a little bit. We've put a lot into this.
So, when you started developing it, did you have other machines to go off as a reference, or did you have to sort of start
There
from
are
scratch?
some YouTube videos you can see. You can see, the can lids are held down. But you don't really know how any of it works. And there's the physical components of actually allowing a can to be filled, and to, how do you depalletize cans that weigh nothing and stop them falling over? But then there's the physical, like I said, there's the physical components of doing it, but then a lot of it is the software. How we've worked on the logic and how John has developed that to make sure that everything works together. So this is where the
magic happens.
Yeah, the magic happens, but also the what do you call it, the IT,
It's the brain box.
Yeah.
Using the Arduino. Nice. Very good little problem solvers.
So there's 4 Arduinos, and basically there's 4 main sections, and so each one looks after, for instance, this one looks after the screen and that, and can delivery. Another one just looks after the filling. They do chit chat with each other, but so that's what drives the whole machine.
So are they Picos? What's the unit?
Nano. Yeah, the Pro Mini.
Pro Mini, right.
Yeah, I'm converting this to 2 stepper motors. One will be the new model. The one will be either side. One will take care of the first wheel, and it's going to be much quicker.
Right.
Because at the moment, I was using compressed air to push the wheels in, but you haven't got the control over it.
Yeah.
So stepper motors, you dial in how far you want the wheels to come in, and
then that's geared right down for a bit more torque.
Well, yeah. So it's the 3,000 clicks that I've got control of. So you can dial in 2,000 clicks or whatever you want,
Cool.
in order to get the seamer just right.
You've got a control surface here. Is that something you produced, or this panel here?
Yeah, that's all CNC at home.
So you're Kanzuki. What's the story behind that?
I had nothing to do with that. That was the boss's choice.
Wait, you're not the boss?
No,
I think you're the boss.
I'm the little minnow.
One thing I learned from CNC machining, I'm sure you know too, John, is your most keen sense is your hearing. As soon as a cutter goes wrong or something, a swarf gets wrapped around the shaft or something, straight away your alarm bells.
Slight change in sound,
Yeah, you get that regular sound happening, and if anything changes, straight away it's your signal that something's gone wrong.
And I could tell straight away when I showed you the canner in the back of the brewery, you knew exactly what the different components were. I could tell that you were from a kind of receptive background for how geeky it was and how ridiculous and how difficult some are. You basically my eyes pretty much, you got it straight away. I felt.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. So we've grown over the last 6 years, 3 years where we are right now, the first 3 years in my garage, and kind of the interesting thing for us, and I think some of the things that our customers like, is they can see what we're doing right here at the brewery. Everything is pretty much exposed. You can see the fermenters, you can see the...
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. When you come for a drink here, you're actually in the brewery,
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of breweries like that, but you can really see what we've done. It's been done by us. It's been, John's got an engineering background and he does the technical drawing and the computer programming. I've got a professional background in different areas as well, with whether it's IT or biochemistry. So we kind of bring those skills together and complement each other to not just make the beer, but to kind of build everything around the brewery to make the beer, the engineering aspect of it as well.
I can't believe how hands-on you guys are in let's build our own machines, let's build everything ourselves. I love the DIY aspect.
No, I mean, look, we enjoy it, and I think the size of the brewery that we run means that we can still carry on enjoying it. I mean, when we set up this place, it's just this bar that we're sitting at. One of the things that John wasn't involved in, which is unusual, is I have my neighbour chipped in and helped me build the framework. This bar is from a stringy bark tree that fell down in my back garden 7 years ago.
Wow.
And I hand chainsaw milled it,
Yeah.
cured it for 7 years, and now it's the biggest bar in Valley Heights. And then another mate of mine helped me clad the front of it. So like everybody gets involved,
Awesome.
It's that kind of a place really. And we've resisted growing in size too much because I think you lose that. I mean, we don't package our beer, we don't distribute our beer very much. Most of it is done at the brewery. I mean, we are starting to can now and distribute it out, and this is where John comes in because
the brains of the operation.
Well, yeah. To be honest, he's quite modest. We used to do bottling, and I was hand bottling on a rig that I made myself, and it was much better than what I could do one bottle at a time. I used to do 4 at a time. And then John came along through a mutual friend of ours, and I just wanted him to help me improve what I was doing.
Yeah.
And before I know it, I had CAD drawings, I had software all written about, well, let's do this, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty serious.
Yeah.
I just want to improve what I'm doing. But John was like, no, we're not improving it.
It's a big picture, man.
We're doing it better, the whole thing from scratch. So
Yeah.
I've just ran with it, and
It can be tough to have the big picture, but also be detail oriented, and that's where I think John is a rarity these days.
John's old school Aussie. It's not worth having if you can't build it yourself.
Yeah.
John handmade, because John will never brag about himself. He built his own aeroplane by hand and flew it across Australia.
This is something else I wanted to talk about. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, there seems to be a sort of expectation when you're a small business owner that you're going to grow, and I get that a lot. Like, I started like you from a garage, and I opened my shop about the same time you opened yours. When did you open? 2020?
This place?
Yeah.
3 years now, so yeah, to 2020
Late 2020,
in
wasn't it?
November, yeah.
Because I literally opened my doors October in
Yeah,
2020.
yeah. Just before the lockdown,
But we're still open in the worst time to operate a business the world has ever seen, probably, other than the Great Depression. We've survived it, and you're in the hospitality business essentially, which took the probably brunt of it. To be honest.
Some of my customers who buy beer off me, restaurants and pubs, they got slammed real hard.
Yeah.
And it comes down to two things, like customer confidence, tightening your belt, also staff, you know? Because what I've got here is that, coming back to the fact that if you wear many hats and do a lot of stuff yourself, you can make it financially viable. You know, I'm the head brewer, I'm the owner, I also the ones that cleans the dunnies. You do everything yourself, right? So your staff costs are reduced. You go to some restaurants in Katoomba, at the top of the hill, and 40% of their staff, 40% of their cost is staff. Yeah. Right? And then half the time, if you're relying on a chef, if you're running a restaurant, you need to be the chef yourself. You know? So for me to be able to survive, I survived through COVID on customer loyalty. We weren't open for that long, but a lot of people came.
There's enough to
and there's enough to get them hooked. And then, like, what is this place? What's going on? We don't have something like this around here. They really loved it. They kept going. And then during lockdown, we had that loyalty. We had takeaway growlers and squealers. We weren't canning, which is actually probably good. Yeah. Because they came with the growlers and squealers and they filled up. They queued up. We kept the food trucks coming. Yep. So those guys still had some income. And people came in on a Friday night, hanging out in the queue with their mate they weren't allowed to see during the week, filling up with a growler, getting a feed, and going back home. So it kind of works. Yeah. Regarding opening the place, how did you deal with like the red tape and stuff? Because I know they opened stuff up a bit to recover after the pandemic. So things get easier? If you want to depress me and get me ranting and raving, I'll talk about I'll talk about the council.
So the council was the biggest thing, was it?
They just got no vision. Look, I mean, when I opened the place, first of all, the DA officer that I had, she was great, absolutely fantastic, and really helped me out, really pragmatic. And I was really surprised. I thought I wasn't expecting that at all. I mean, the council's there for a reason, and legislation's there for a reason. Sydney Water, the Liquor Licensing Authority, all this stuff, it's all there for a reason, right? Certain things are difficult here, and would be anywhere in the Western world, but ultimately anyone can do it if you're willing to just push through it, through the red tape. Like, my problem is somebody gets pissed and does something stupid, then you've got visceral responsibility. I am responsible for you. This is going to be a really depressing part of the interview. But it's the reality of running a business. You need to be responsible for everything that you do, and it's a nightmare. But John just swans in here and swans out, doesn't he? You know? Bliss. Absolute bliss.
So you said in the past, the only thing better than owning a brewery is having a mate who owns a brewery.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And now you've got a whole suburb of mates. Have you sort of got a sense of how far and wide your fan base is? Is it just the mountains, or?
I'll definitely. People send me pictures of the merchandise, the t-shirts and hoodies that we do in different parts of the world. They do, mad. Like, you know, they'll have someone like going down the Thames with the the Tower Bridge behind, or walking across a bridge somewhere in Vancouver, a famous famous bridge in Vancouver, or they'll send me a picture of someone like on the Great Wall of China with a hoodie on. Wow. And that's kind of cool. I kind of like that, because we don't push out for a global reach at all. We're a local brewery, but the people that like us do travel. They absolutely, and they're from different parts. And awesome. We got an order just 2 days ago for one of our beer runners from the States. Okay, yeah, cool. So we posted that off just in time for Christmas. Someone in the US wanted one of our beer runners, the beer mats, that go on the bar.
I think my highest selling item internationally is these things.
Well, that says something about your product then, mate.
From the YouTube guys. So, it's hard to ship amps internationally for a pair. So So what I've found with breweries, the explosion in breweries, it sort of came at a time when everyone was sick of pubs, particularly in Australia, because our pub culture has really started to suck, let's be honest. All the majors bought out the decent pubs, and they've just become grey slate, stainless, TV in every corner. They're just not a good place to go anymore. I just don't enjoy them, so I go to the breweries because it just seems like a bit more down to earth.
But I'm English, so if you're British, any flavour of British or Irish, I think that you're generally speaking, from the land of pubs. So I was brought up with a pub on nearly every single corner. And in the UK, and I think in Ireland as well, these pubs end up being community centres.
Yeah.
You know, with less people go to church, whether that's right or wrong. So you need an area. So you need a place to go. So you get pubs where I'm from, where you'll get granddads going with their grandkids, and they'll just sit and have a chat. And they're not places that you go to walk in and get smashed as quickly as possible. They actually end up being part of the community.
Yeah.
So when I came to Australia
Would have been
12 years ago, I worked in Sydney initially, and there were some pubs which reminded me of home. But then I come up here and there's Bolos and RSLs, and which I think serve a purpose. But and you got screens, you got pokies, that and music
Gambling
playing so
is
loud
the
and
thing.
gambling. That didn't appeal to me at all. I wanted to go. There wasn't really anywhere to go in the lower Blue Mountains. So that's one of the reasons I thought, I've got to make somewhere.
Yeah.
And now I've got kids and a family of my own. My social life is almost non-existent. So working behind the bar is actually, a little bit of
a chance to interact.
And to socialise. Although I don't drink when I'm working, I still get to watch other people do it, which is okay.
But yeah, that's the main reason I started going to the breweries. You go to pubs, beer's shit, or usually shit. Some of them have picked up their game somewhat. At night, you got overzealous bouncers that are in their 20s and just go out with something to prove. You've got to deal with that. You've got just blokes that go out with something to prove. I've never seen an altercation at a brewery ever. And I've gone to all of them, and there's never been an issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's true. I get pressure as well. I've got a big screen, and I put it on for a big game. I put World Cup final. I might put a big rugby match on, or I get pressure to put the screen on, and I resist most of it because I just think, well, people come in here to have a chat, and they come in here with their kids and their families and dogs and mates. They don't necessarily want to sit looking at non-stop background TV chatter.
Because it's just, people have got enough distractions in their life these days with the little things in our pockets that are constantly dinging. And you're sitting there trying to have a chat with someone, and you can just see that they keep looking up at the screen. And that's the other thing that shits me about pubs, just TV in every corner. It's just
no
really
TVs, no pokies.
Yeah.
No
air conditioning.
No. We've got a couple of big fans.
Oh, you got the fan. I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, you go. That's a segue. That's a segue. All right. Do you know how the inventor of the Segway died?
Yes.
Oh,
he modified his Segway to take off the speed limit, and he ended up riding it accidentally off a cliff.
Yeah. He went off a cliff and died on a Segway.
What better way to go? Yeah. Live and die by the Segway.
If Monty Python couldn't have written that better, could they?
So tell me about the breakfast stout. Was this the first one that you made?
First stout that I made, first beer that I made.
Yeah.
The Imperial Breakfast Stout actually was the first beer that I ever made in collaboration with another brewer.
Okay.
An American guy, Ed. He came to the markets when I was in my garage, and he wanted to get involved, and we got on, and he come to my garage, and he moved over here actually, and he missed a beer that he used to make in his brewery. He had a brewery in the States, and he moved over here, I think, because his missus had a job, and he just came with her, and we brewed to his recipe an Imperial Breakfast Stout, 9.5%.
Right.
And that was the first collaboration that I did, and actually I'm in touch with him from time to time. I sent Ed a T-shirt, and he commented on the canning machine actually.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm not sure if he's set up a new brewery because he's gone back to the States. So that was the first collaboration, and I remember being, quite protective at the time about my little brewery, and Ed was much more experienced than me.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot that day actually.
It can be a little bit humbling. Like they say, if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So be around people around you that are smarter than you, and you learn a lot. But it can be a bit intimidating. Do you ever get sort of like the imposter syndrome, I guess?
Oh, look, I think everyone suffers from imposter syndrome. I've been winging it for so long. In the garage, the stuff that we've been doing together, just fixing things at the absolute last minute.
Second, yeah.
And then people roll through the door and they got no idea
Bang, there you go, sir.
of what you've just gone through. And then they'll say, oh, why is there an empty tap? And it's like, man, you've got no idea as to how it's close to it for having them all empty.
Yeah.
So we've winged it a few times, and
good though, it keeps it interesting.
Yeah. Because it's pretty technical,
Yeah, absolutely.
The difference between making beer in 20 litres and 200 litres and then 500 litres and getting it out and getting it done with the right quality with a complete close, because beer is a complete closed system. As soon as it leaves the brew house into the fermenter, it's a closed system from every pipe to every vessel. It's got to have no air, and it's got to be purged. It's got to be absolutely schmick. And to do that and to be super paranoid about that is the only way to turn good beer into great beer. What we're trying to do with the canning machine is actually very dangerous, you know, in terms of quality. Because everything's got to be purged, got to be cold, got to be, you know, you're moving from a controlled environment into another environment where you can quite easily lose control if you don't do everything exactly right. So these are the constant battles that me and John have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, John.
I'm learning.
He's got the 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, John will be like, we've done this, and I'll say, yeah, but what about that? And he'll go, damn you. And then sometimes he'll try and like today we had a discussion about the new version of the canning machine. And he's preempting what I'm going to say about an enhancement he's making. You know, because he knows I'm going to say that, and then now he's trying to catch me out.
You guys, you're in the zone now. You sort of like know what each other's thinking, know what each other's going to say. So
Pretty well.
Yeah, I think we're half the time. Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, John sometimes will work in isolation if I'm doing other stuff at the brewery, and then he'll come back and say, "What about this?" And I'll say, "Yeah, but you know, that's great, but we need to do this." And he's like, "Yeah, I knew you were going to say that because I've done this."
Here's one I prepared earlier.
And I'd be like, "Okay, yeah."
He's got me there.
And then of course,
I put plans sort of, you know, he'll say no to this and he may say yes to this and you know, what about that?
It's like a flow chart.
Oh.
Yeah.
and he won't want to do something, and I'll be like, "Yeah, but," and I'll plant that seed, and he'll wake up at 4 a.m. with what John calls a brain fart, which is an idea, and then just to get around another problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've solved all sorts of problems at midnight. I've repaired amplifiers in my sleep, woken up. Oh, I didn't think about that resistor. I'll check that. I get up in the morning, go in, and sure enough, that's what the problem is. It's nuts. The mind is such a poorly understood thing.
but you want to do it. You got to want to do it, yeah. You got to be interested, yeah. It's like,
Oh well, you wouldn't be thinking about it if you weren't interested.
yeah. You haven't got any choice, have you?
Yeah.
When you're in bed at night, what you think
can't
about.
tune out. It's always there. So
But it becomes a challenge. You know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like it to beat me.
yeah, neither do I.
And,
Sometimes to my detriment of my bank account.
Yes.
Or your sanity.
Yeah, that too.
Or your marriage.
Well, I haven't got that far yet. I've only been married 1 year. But yeah, it's time will tell. But
Yeah, but I think both our wives put up a lot with us, don't they? Really. You know?
We're very fortunate.
Yeah.
so am I.
But I think both. Well, my missus knew part of what she was getting into when she married me. Because in fact, it was her idea that I set up a brewery. So,
Yeah, right.
so
Well,
sorry.
it was Michelle's idea to open the shop.
Well,
She
you
said,
go.
just try it.
If you manoeuvre them in such a way, they'll think it's their idea, but they often think they manoeuvre us.
No, if it wasn't for her, I'd still be sitting there. I'd still be contemplating it in the garage, thinking, is it possible?
It's
is it
funny
not?
because my missus, she was like,
She's the one that pushed me.
yeah,
into
she pushed me to set up in the garage, and then she pushed me to move from the garage to here. So I'd have been carrying on, probably moving in the right direction, but just not at a fast enough speed to make it work financially viably. Like you're hemorrhaging cash in the garage, not making any money at all for 3 years. All you're doing is hemorrhaging cash because you don't. All your sales are wholesale. And not retail.
Exactly.
So they won't. So you're selling a very low profit margin, just enough to cover your costs and maybe buy a little bit more equipment, and then they don't pay you for 3 months. Whereas here, if you don't have the money, you don't
get a beer.
You don't get a beer, man.
It's amazing.
Cash flow kills every business.
Oh, yeah.
And my cash flow
Live
is
and
good
die,
because we have a bar.
Yeah.
Right. And if it wasn't for retail, if all my customers were wholesale, I'd be under.
Yeah.
Because I have wholesale customers, and some pay better than others. But if they were all wholesale, I'd be done for.
It's amazing the parallels between this and my business. Like when I started in the garage, the only way to get the repairs, because I didn't have a shop front, didn't have a real public-facing presence at all, was through the music shops. So I did wholesale work for them, doing repairs for them at usually 25-30% off what I charged the general public.
Yeah, sure.
Which, looking back, was just so stupid. Like, you've got customers dropping off stuff at a shop. They pick it up a couple of weeks later. Perfect, you know, you'd have a shattered headstock on a Gibson, every time a Gibson, and you'd make it look like nothing ever happened to that instrument. And the customer picks it up, and as far as they know, the shop did it. They probably told the shop, the customer at the shop did it. They get all the credit. They probably sell accessories and stuff like, oh, I'll grab a strap while I'm here, a couple of sets of strings.
Yeah.
They get.
But they've got the front, they've got the shop, they've got the brand.
Yeah, they
so
get
that's
everything.
what you need. You need that as well.
It
It's
got
not-
my foot in the door.
Yeah.
So then word spread.
And you would have heard heaps, yeah? You would have learnt heaps, doing that, yeah?
Yeah.
You'd have learnt what you didn't want to do anymore.
I think
You'd have tuned your business acumen a bit more.
It took a lot of confidence to go out on my own because now I'm the one dealing with the end user. There's a lot of guys in my trade, in particular, that aren't interested in that. They just want to be behind the scenes,
in the
fixing
basement.
stuff.
Yeah, in the
Which
basement
is-
doing the creative stuff.
Which is
Madonna.
understandable
Yeah.
as well. Just a problem solver, just working away, toiling, you know. But yeah, it was quite intimidating to take on the whole lot.
Not everybody's lucky enough to have a business partner where one of them is doing the tinkering and the fun and the other one is the front man.
Yeah.
Not everybody's lucky enough to do that. You know, when I set this up all on my own, then people around me came to me. You know, you got to be. If you talk, you can talk about. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to. No one's going to come to you.
Nah.
Yeah, you've got to be doing it.
You got to
Once
show
you start doing it,
results.
people do show up to help you.
Yep.
You know, whether it's building the bar, doing the electrics, doing the plumbing, doing the stuff with John. Unless you're doing it, people don't come and help you. And then once you start doing stuff, people will definitely come, man, because it's exciting, yeah.
It is. Something's happening. There's
And nobody
movement
wants
at
to
the
do it on
scene.
their own. You don't want to do it. When you're a businessman or a woman doing stuff on your own, business person, you know, it's lonely.
It is a bit.
Absolutely,
yeah.
it's lonely.
Can be. We can't let the earlier comment go. Tell me about building your own airplane and flying across Australia.
Built two.
Two. You built in case one breaks, or
No, the first one was it was a sort of a kit.
Right.
You just ended up with a box full of skins,
yeah, right.
fiberglass skins.
Wow.
And but the wings came assembled and a lot of the stuff you just bought off the shelf.
Okay.
And that was good. That was good training. And
So it's just a light aircraft, like
yeah, it was a two-seater. Both of them were two-seaters. And then the chap I had who was to certify it flew up in a Glass Air 3. If you, anybody in the aviation industry sort of...
I've got several mates and viewers that I know are in the aviation industry. I'm forgetting how to talk. A lot of guys are in avionics and they branch off into valve amps and stuff as their hobby. So.
Yeah. But, so he flew up. I was living out in the country and flew up to certify the plane in his Glass Air 3. And when you've heard a Glass Air 3, it's a bit like a Spitfire or
you can hear
or
it's distinctive.
World War II. And I thought, oh, wow. And he said, why don't you build one?
No worries.
Because his comment was, how did you find the plane? I said, well, it was a bit easy. Because it was just putting panels together.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, have a go at a Glass Air 3.
Yeah.
Well, my wife encouraged me.
Oh,
She was doing
there you go.
masters, doing a masters, and the agreement was that she would finish her masters, and when I finished the aircraft.
Yeah, wow.
So, but then the Glass Air 3, it was a very sophisticated aircraft, fully aerobatical, retractable undercarriage, goes like the clappers, and for about 3 years, every Saturday morning I'd put on a pair of overalls, the same overalls, absolutely stiff with fiberglass, because when you're fiberglassing, it's messy shit,
resin,
and
yeah.
you sort of wipe your hands like this, and by the 3 years,
You got to run them through a
can
ringer.
barely move in them. Probably the greatest thrill I've had in life is flying an aircraft you built
Yeah.
for the first time.
My God, I can't imagine the feeling. You'd be a little bit nervous though, wouldn't you?
Yes, the first one was fine.
You used the Loctite on that one, didn't you?
Yes, you do everything up twice, but the Glass Air, I did quite a few trips down the runway just to make sure, does this thing want to
Nothing
fly?
fell off.
Yes, does this want to fly? And because you weren't it was a fairly high performance engine, it all the plugs up.
Yeah, right.
So I did this,
It wants
and
to be
then
run hard.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I
gotcha.
sent the plugs away to have them sandblasted.
Yep.
So I thought, they came back a couple of days later, went back and forwards down the runway.
All or nothing, mate.
And I thought, this is it.
Yeah.
So I opened the throttle.
Wow.
I was just about to take off, and I lost the cylinder.
Oh no.
Oil plugs. And I'm looking around. Well, where am I going to land?
Where am I going to stop?
Yeah. And because I didn't want to use the undercarriage first trip, I had to keep it below 130 knots.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're sort of going.
Was Mark in there with you?
Oh no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
you're going to go alone.
Yeah. Okay.
And anyhow, I'm sort of looking around, and all of a sudden, all 6 cylinders came into life.
Nice.
150 knots. Oh heck! Let's
go, let's go.
Power off. Oh yeah. But yeah, as an adrenaline rush, that was.
Oh, yeah.
That was it.
That's the one. That's the
Bloody-
daddy.
There's some people that knock off from work, they go home and they just watch TV. I don't
Yeah.
understand that.
Because you
They
can't-
enjoy it. I mean,
it's okay
like,
for those
yeah.
people,
Yeah.
but it's not what I want to do.
I just-
or
what I'm saying
what
is
we
that-
want to do.
I just can't identify with it.
No.
You know? It's not saying there's anything wrong with it, but
We've got
not
we've got a very large amount of intelligence in our species and a large amount of go to do stuff, and it seems just a waste.
we probably have undiagnosed ADD or something, maybe. You know, we've probably got a lot of irons in the fire at any given time,
Yeah.
and I think part of that is just built a bit different, and we're probably going to
Well,
have.
there's also plenty of people that are driven to do things and then don't finish things as well. So I think that's
Yeah.
a big difference as well. You've got to not only be driven to do stuff, but you've got to finish it off. I mean,
I think all of us are going to die with a few projects unfinished, though.
of course. You've got to finish some of them at
I
least.
think most of the people viewing can agree, because there's lots of amp builders and stuff that watch. So
Yes, I mean, right from the start of the brewery, actually, we've had quite a strong emphasis on being local and doing things in this area. You know, whether we use a local screen printer, blank canvas, or whether we do a collaboration with our local coffee roaster 2 doors down, you know, Blue Mountains Coffee, we do stuff with them.
Yep.
My mate Joe, who actually introduced us with John, is an urban farmer, Urbavore, and once a year he grows grains that we make a beer with. I grow my own hops. I've got a hop garden at home. We've got a few acres of land, and we grow enough hops for one beer, several varieties.
how do you find them? Like, how do they deal with the mountains climate? Because I know
they're
they're
all right.
like.
They're all right. Yeah, if you get extreme heat days, like 40 degrees,
Yeah.
nothing likes that. Yeah,
Yeah, true.
But
Including me.
the further away you are from the equator, the better yield you get. So if you're in
I've heard
Tasmania
that.
or South
Yeah,
Victoria,
Tassie.
you're going to get more yield, or if you're in the northern hemisphere in the UK or Germany or Poland, you're going to get a nice yield.
Because it's long sunlight hours, isn't it? It's not necessarily the temperature, is what I've heard.
Yeah, the temperature's fine. They love to grow. They're not a problem. You just got to give them enough water and something to climb up. But the further you are from the equator, the better yield you get.
Right.
So that we get plenty. Right. So we grow our own hops. This year will be the 3rd year of doing our XLA, which we have a little dance, XLA, the Extreme Local Ale. So we grow.
I remember that one when it came
Yeah.
out.
So the first one was absolutely kick-ass. It was so good, and then we had 2 years of La Nina. Is it La Nina?
La Nina,
all the
yeah.
rain. So we never, because at the end of the day, hops are flowers, yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to harvest them at the right time, the right time of day, where the essential oils are nice and produced, and the leaves are nice and the cones are nice and dry, and the essential oils are really pungent. And last year we just never had days like that. It never really worked. Whereas this year, we're hoping. Joe has already made a whole bunch of grain for us. The hops are looking good this year. Put new trestles in. They're climbing well. So yeah, we're. Well, the XLA really is an extreme local ale. It's from local grains, local hops, and a local collaboration. And people sometimes bring in their hops as well.
Yeah, cool.
To use. So that's called wet hopping as well. Normally, you make a beer, and all the brewers do the same, us included. We'll buy hops from mainly Australia, some from the UK, some from the US, and there will be hops which have been grown during the growing season, and then vacuum sealed and packed, and you use them all year round, and that's completely normal.
The pellets.
Yeah, well, they pelletize the flowers and vacuum seal, suck all the oxygen out,
Yep.
and you use them all year round, and that's normal. Occasionally, you get if you're fortunate enough to have a brewery just 2 k's from where you live, from a hop garden, you can make a beer in the morning. Choose your day well, when you know it's going to be nice and sunny in the morning, produce a lot of essential oils in those hop flowers that you know are nice and papery and ready to go.
Yeah, right.
And you can rush home after the mash is on, and then bring harvest the hops by hand and bring them all in, and then get them in the whirlpool to 72, 74 degrees. So it's sanitized, but are not hot enough to boil off the essential oil. So you can get all those essential oils into the whirlpool. It's called wet hopping when you use hops that haven't been preserved. It's like cooking with dry basil or cooking with fresh basil. It makes a completely different experience. So some breweries do it, we're very lucky. We're right 2k away from our own hop garden, so it's the first XLA we did was like nothing else. It was great. It was a great beer, and it's what we'll always try to get back to.
Nice.
You know, it's like that first hit of Erwin.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
You remember that? Should never quite get there again. No.
Everything after that was pretty fuzzy, but
So it's just like that. That's what we'll try to achieve every year. Is we'll make a hoppy pale ale, similar in some ways to say Pacific ale.
Yeah.
You know, really kind of clean and easy to drink, light, hoppy. That's the best style of the beer to make, I think, with wet hops, because it's a beer which you're going to be relying on those essential oils, those fresh essential oils made that day.
Yeah, excellent. And you've also collaborated. I've got the sour ale up here right now with Sincerely Cake from Hazelbrook.
That's our latest collaboration. Yeah. So we have a local pastry chef company, Sincerely Cake.
They did our wedding cake.
Did they? Yeah. My wife's been going there for years. She loves the stuff, and then I've been in touch with them for probably about a year, because they're sometimes drinking here, and we said, well, let's make a beer together. Yeah. And then they came in and brought in the lemon and blueberry tarts. And I can't have milk. I'm one of those awkward people that can't have milk. So she made an entire recipe which was, with margarine instead of butter, and it tastes great. I happened to sneak one of them back home as well to the wife and kids, which they enjoyed.
They do amazing stuff. I'm not a sweet tooth, but
likewise, I'm not. But it's nice.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's got to be real good to get me on side with it. Yeah. Being not a sweet tooth, but the stuff they do, and it's visually amazing what they do as well. But another.
If you're passionate about what you do, whether it's making beer or making cakes or baking bread, whatever it is, if you're passionate about it, it shines through. You can see.
Absolutely.
So we put all the blueberry pies and we put all the deconstructed pastry into the mash, and then we put blueberry and lemon into the fermenter later on, and put it's like, it's not blue. It's like, well, I had to remind people that the blueberries
aren't blue. Michelle said the exact same thing. I said it's only the skin that's blue. It's only blue because it's got the yeast on the outside.
I think you've got to put a lot in to really try to get the blue from the skin in. Yeah, so we've done a collaboration with Valley Brewing down the road. We've got a couple of mates who brew as well, so we do occasionally beers with them. We've done a couple of beers with a coffee roaster. We did a wild berry infused alcoholic iced tea from one of the berry teas.
Yep, I use that tea.
Yeah, it's nice.
I use their coffee. It's probably the only reason I get out of bed every morning, to be honest.
Well, Tim's great. I mean, he roasts every week, which is what you want a coffee roaster to do. You don't want to be sitting on old coffee.
Exactly.
It's got to be fresh as a peak. And he's gone gangbusters next door. Yeah. I mean, spoiler alert as well. We do have a new beer that we're working on with the coffee roast. It's going to be a white stout.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be with his coffee. So what I do is you basically make a pale ale, a pale beer, but you try to get it to taste like a stout.
Yeah.
That's the idea. You use cocoa nibs and you do cold brew coffee.
Yeah.
So you want to keep the colour. You don't add anything in that's going to change the colour. You want to but you want that coffee, chocolatey, roasty kind of flavour from it.
So as soon as you taste it, your brain is subconsciously expecting one thing and it gets another.
Yeah, if you did it blindfolded, you'd probably think you're drinking a porter or a stout. Yeah.
But it makes it more intense because you're not, like, as much as you psych yourself up for it, you're not expecting it. When you drink it, your brain's just still expecting something completely different, and it adds to it. I think it makes it more intense. Yeah. And I was pretty impressed. So
that's coming in the next couple of months. I'm just going to get through Christmas.
Yeah, well, that's what we're all going to do.
It's going to get through Christmas.
Oh, we've been ramping up. We got our Christmas edition T-shirt. We got a couple of moonshine Christmas editions on Bourbon Oak, and then we kicked off getting the canning machine online just before Christmas. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have done that.
What do you do, mate?
It's never a good time, is it, to break an egg?
So tell us about your. Oh, there goes the ducky. Tell us about your spirits.
Oh, look, we've been distilling probably just over a year. We never necessarily planned on distilling, but we were kind of forced into it by liquor licensing rules, which basically says we have the license that we have, we can only sell what we make. And the next step up from that is a small bar license, which means you're in the whole world of, police, CCTV, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, right.
So basically, we can only sell what we make. So we decided to, we bought a still, got a bit of advice from some people with more experience than us, Carew Distillery up the road, they do a lot of gin. So talked to those guys, talked to Rusty Penny, the guys down in Penrith who also still, and we just kicked off a couple of products. And mainly, well, we sell it by the bottle, but the idea is we wanted to be able to sell, gin and tonic, vodka, lemonade, bourbon and coke kind of products at the bar for people to give them more variety. We have 14 taps. We also have 5 local wines from the Megalong Valley and the Blue Mountains as well, and we wanted to offer, a wider range.
Because I do have a couple of those weirdo friends that don't drink beer.
I know they do exist. They do exist, but
we're trying to wipe them out, but it's a slow process.
Oh look, some people like a vodka and orange or a whiskey.
I don't want a gin and tonic, and I am a whiskey drinker, but
So we started doing that. We started off with 2 products, and then this Christmas we've done another couple of Christmassy. Although I kind of forget that we are in the Southern Hemisphere sometimes. It's taking me a long time. I tend to make stouts in the summer, and sour beers in the winter.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you're dedicated enough, you'll drink it all year round. But
of course. So we've done a kind of what we call chili inferno, which is chili and cinnamon infused moonshine, which is on bourbon, matured on bourbon oak for probably about 6 months. We can't call it whiskey because it's been matured on oak for less than 2 years. 2 years in Australia.
2 years.
Believe me, I definitely know. I've read it.
Several times.
And then we've got one as well with just cinnamon without the chili called Phoenix Reserve.
Mountain Shine, not whiskey.
Yeah, we're not allowed to mislead people either.
Yeah.
So, and that's selling. It's lovely and smooth. Yeah, and the vodka is quadruple distilled, which is what you need, a nice clean base. And then we have also a friend of mine, we're working on gin. It's almost ready. We'll do gin next year as well.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll probably just start off with 1 gin, but then we might move into because we want to use Australian botanicals in there as well, and if we can, Blue Mountains botanicals. I mean, gin is basically juniper and coriander.
So marijuana then.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that is native to the Blue Mountains.
It's not native, but there sure is a lot of it.
So there'll be some other botanicals making it into the gin as well for our own little extra edge. As well, yeah. So we're selling all right at the bar, and we do small batches like the Chili Inferno, 24 bottles only we made, and 23 bottles of Phoenix because I kept one for myself. So the small batch, like a lot of stuff that we do. The
still that you've got, did you build that yourself, or was
No, we bought that.
Okay,
we bought that. Yeah, we do like to make. It gets to a point where, we could have made it.
It's like, are you gonna cast your own bottles out of sand?
No, exactly. How far do you go? Blowing your own glass.
Don't entertain.
I'm melting sand tomorrow. Can you help? How far do you go?
Start your own cork tree. You got to call it at some point.
I mean, I do tread through the bush, and I do get spring water for the spirits. I do 20 litres a time. I go to Lawson, I go through the bush, and I get two 20-litre tubs, 20 in each hand.
What's the point though? Because it's just purified.
I don't want to make it with tap water.
Why not? Can't you just purify it?
Tap water's got like chlorines and chloramides in there. No, you can't get rid of chlorines and chloramides unless you use reverse osmosis. And,
oh, really?
So I'm not using tap water.
I'll trust you on that one. Way. You know a lot more than I do.
No way am I using
I won't ask you about valve amps, and you don't.
Look, water is way important when it comes to either spirits or making beer. Okay. You cannot use tap water to make a great beer.
Maybe that's where I went wrong.
You can't do it. But you can make an okay one. But like I use reverse osmosis for the beer. I strip everything down to 2 or 3 parts per million dissolved minerals in the tap water.
You can never get all of it out. Can you?
No, if you leave water open for a little while, the chlorine will evaporate. But you can't get rid of the chloramides. You can't get rid of the fluorine, fluorides. So what I do is I strip it back right down to the wood, right down to several parts per million. And then, for example, if you're making a pilsner, very, very soft. There's hardly anything in a pilsner. There's only like 20 parts per million of any kind of salt in there, because that's like the groundwater in the town of Pilsner. Whereas if you go and make a New England IPA, you need to have 3 times as much chlorides as you have fluorides in there, sulfides in there, and you add that back in, and the salts, depending on the style of the beer, they're totally different styles of beer, use totally different water chemistry.
So you're literally changing the water chemistry to match where the beer was originally
Yeah, absolutely,
brewed.
yeah. If I want to make an authentic Pilsner, if I want to make an authentic German wheat beer, which I had on Oktoberfest, you will not get an authentic German, as close to an authentic German wheat beer as you're going to get as my wheat beer, because except if you go to Munich, I strip it back and I make the water exactly the same as the water in Munich.
That was the first thing that struck me, is it tasted exactly like the beers that I actually had over
and
there.
then you need to use a certain German strain of yeast, which is going to give you flavours of cloves and bananas, and you need to have a certain percentage of Munich and a certain percentage of Vienna, which are the grains used. So you need to, all these things matter. The water matters, the grains matter, the yeast matters, all of this matters. It's not just baking a cake. You've got to look into the detail. I think you've got to look into detail. Attention to detail is important.
Do you ever get tempted to think to yourself, "Oh, these mountain idiots don't know. I'll just go."
No, you know why? You know why? I drink it.
Right.
I can tell. Right.
True.
I want to. Yeah. Look, you can't. You've got to. You're going to be authentic.
Yeah.
You've got to do as best you can, right? And people also they want to talk about it. They want to ask you. They'll say, "Tell me about the German wheat beer."
Sometimes they want to talk about it, and they bring friggin' lights and cameras.
Yeah.
A bunch of weirdos.
So I think attention to detail. I think some breweries really do take attention to detail to the nth degree. I'm from a molecular biology background. I used to do cloning and splicing and using yeast as a model organism. I used to take genes out of fruit fly, genes out of green jellyfish protein, put them into other vectors and put them into other organisms. I used to do all this shit, which I really enjoyed, but there's no money in it. So that's why I went into IT. So that attention to detail, I really enjoy it. And I think sometimes you can go 80% of the way, right? And for a little bit more effort and a little bit more time, you can go 100% of the way. You really can.
I'm starting to realise why I gave up homebrewing, and that's probably a good thing.
I should probably do some homebrew courses, because everybody knows about temperature control, yeah?
Yeah, everyone knows
18 degrees Celsius, keep it at it.
Everyone knows the pH,
pH is
specific
important,
gravity, and that's about it.
Yeah, but one thing, the next thing, I know this is in a homebrew course, but if you've nailed your temperature control, the next thing is yeast health.
Yeah.
Right? I used to be a yeast microbiologist
I
for
got a
several
shock
years.
once.
You've got to get your yeast health right.
When I got the sense that this wasn't your average brewery when I walked in not long after you opened, and there was a microscope over there, and I'm like,
I probably had something shaking as well.
he's doing something.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, yeast health, if it tells you to put 1 packet in, put 2 in.
All right.
Put 2 in. Because a lot of off flavours come from the yeast getting stressed. Because they haven't had a high enough pitch rate, and they'll start to reproduce to get up to the right volume. You put in exactly the yeast that you need, so they don't have to reproduce. Because if they do, they're going to start to produce off flavours, and you'll never get rid of them.
Yeah,
and that's what you call the funk.
Yeah,
the funk of
funk,
homebrew.
yeah.
That's mainly from yeast health.
It's a bit winey, a bit cidery, a little bit vinegary,
Just a bit shit, isn't it?
A bit shit. Very shit sometimes.
Temperature control and yeast health. If you nail those 2 things, you've fixed 80% of your problems.
Yeah, wow.
Water chemistry will come later.
I was actually talking to one of the other music shop guys, Gazza, down at Guitar Factory, and he was talking about when he was in the UK, because he's an Englishman as well. He and his mates went and got a homebrew kit, and they said, "Oh, we don't have to try and get a fake ID to buy beer. We can just make it ourselves.
Cheap as chips, mate."
So they got a homebrew kit, they put it in, and followed all the instructions. They look at each other and go, "You think it's ready yet?" They drank it that day, and the next day they were so sick. So let's talk about the canning line. Was it sketches, or was it like fully CAD drawn?
Oh, John will tell you about that. John is the chief engineer of the brewery. He even has a t-shirt to prove it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fully CAD.
Yep.
3D. I use a lot of 2D, especially before you start making something, because you can draw it up, and you're within half or quarter of a mil, and especially then from the 2D drawing you go straight into CNC, so all of your shapes are cut out with a CNC mill.
Okay.
And
so your CNC, is that like one of those little shark things, or is it something a bit more?
I built it myself.
Oh, you built? Of course you did. So what did you use to CNC the CNC parts?
When I retired, I couldn't afford one, so
they are pricey bits of kit.
Yeah, so made the circuit board, because with stepper motors, it's straight stepper motor technology, and as long as you've got your threads and
Ball screws and that.
good ball screws,
Yep.
the rest of it's just MIG welding and so on. And so yeah, that's sort of the mainstay, MIG welder. I've got a lathe,
So on
and
that
3D printer.
3D printing too.
Made that as well.
Oh, nice. I did notice a couple of like gears and stuff that you've used on that were made out of the plastic sheeting.
Yeah.
You told me before, HDPE?
Yeah,
High density polyethylene.
You love HDTP, don't you?
That's
He's
good
falling
stuff.
in love with it.
Oh, it's great. It's good stuff.
Good
Easy to
stuff.
cut, light,
Yes.
got a
Reasonably robust.
self-lubricating.
Yes.
That's the most
It
important
doesn't
part.
like heat very much, as we're sort
Yeah.
of discovering.
Okay, that can be a challenge. I found I had to cut polycarbonate quite a lot on on the CNC, and the hardest thing with that was getting it to not melt to the router.
Yeah.
So you had to get your rotation of your spindle and your feed rate just right.
Yeah.
And when you get the snowy little flakes coming off, you know everything's sweet. But when they stop coming off, it
You're in
starts
trouble.
collecting, and then you hear snap. Yeah. So all your circuit boards are milled.
Yeah.
Right. Do you ever etch, or
I used to.
have you ever done like CAD design stuff, ordered from China, that kind of thing?
No. I just design my own circuits using Circuit Wizard.
Yep.
And just mill the circuit board, because with etching and everything else, you've got chemicals.
Yeah.
So I can have
very messy.
have a brain fart in 5 minutes. I've got a circuit board, and
Yeah.
sort of that doesn't work. So throw it out. And
As soon as you got the
another one.
chemicals, you've got to dispose of them, and then you got the timing to get right as well. If you over etch it, then your board's ruined. If you under etch it, you got to put it back in.
Yeah.
I found I've made the move. I put it off for so long, but to take on the circuit board manufacturer to China, so I use KiCad to design my boards.
Okay.
And I order them from either PCB way or JLC PCB. You literally send them the Gerbers. They usually don't even react to them. It just goes through as an order, and you can see, okay, we've received the order, design is finalised, it's getting the silk screen, it's getting this, it's getting that, and it runs you in live time through the production process. Order's been boxed and shipped, it's been checked, electronic design rules checked, passed, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
So I should run you through that, because I couldn't believe how easy it was. It was literally...
How do you compete with that? That's incredible.
You can't.
Yeah.
And they're basically free.
For pennies.
I put it off for ages because there was a learning curve. I always put off things that have a learning curve, including video editing. But once I finally made the dive, I was very glad I did. So even Dad's gone to it, and he was very standoffish.
Very, yeah.
And he designs phono preamps.
Oh, yes.
And all sorts of bits and pieces. So
Yeah.
as soon as he got through the learning curve of the software, KiCad is what we use because it's free. It's becoming like an industry standard, that, by the way. As soon as we got over that and got our first order of boards, were just so impressive. And you can 3D model them as well, and you can see what the board's actually going to look like, and rotate it around and stuff.
So you just send a Gerber over.
Literally send.
So when this is the canning machine that we've done is a prototype. We're making it more robust at the moment, but it's operational. We are canning on it. When I say we, John's already designed the 2024 model.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean that's
Right on it.
Yeah.
Well, you could look at. I mean, that's
can
always
pump.
something you can retrofit too. I mean, you get your boards up and running, and you've got if you have just IDC connectors and stuff like that, you can just unplug them, plug your.
Because this is a problem when you're developing something, as you know. You can't, your first design, there's always problems.
Oh, absolutely.
And then when you upgrade, because I've gone from so many different types of connectors, and now it's always soldered.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't work, so you unsolder it.
Well, you can't go wrong with soldering, but yeah, it makes changing stuff out of pain. So when do you expect to have the 2024 machine? Maybe
Well,
2024,
2024, obviously. So
Are we talking first quarter?
well,
last
the
quarter?
first version took 3 years of research and development,
Right.
and the second
But the-
second
yeah, the-
version is going to be way shorter.
Yeah, and
learned a
I've had
lot.
a chance to redesign it. It's going to be, so sleek. So instead of using mechanical stuff, I'm going to use a lot of stepper motors, especially for the seamers, and a couple of bolts and you've got it there. Whereas the first model was all air driven. So pneumatic rams, but you've got no control, or very little control over those.
Ka-chunk.
Yeah, and you get a drop in pressure because you've done something else earlier on. And
things don't come
I mean,
back.
look at it's tiny. I mean, it's 1.5 to 2 meters in length.
It's going to be half that.
And and it's built. It's built for this place. So it's a small brewery, and we have to move things around. There's only so much space around the little corners into the brewery area. So its size is really important,
Well, the first time you showed me, it was hidden away between the 2 rows of fermenters, and you can barely walk through there. I'm just like, what a mad little secret you got stashed back here. I thought that was so cool. It's just like,
I saw it. You were just like, ooh, what's this? What does that do? Ooh, look at that. Yes, I knew you straight away that you were.
I felt like a little kid.
Yeah, half the things you recognised.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that you.
I mean, there's the electronics, but also there's the background in CNC machining myself, where often I was the bloke that had to fix it because they couldn't get a call out in time to hit the production schedule. So you learn shit fast, and often you do stuff that you shouldn't be even touching because they've got no better option. And you think quick, and if you think systematically about stuff, I think usually you can solve stuff pretty quick, but it can be overwhelming at the start.
But like just simple things like how to get a column of can lids to come down one at a time and then be applied to a can that is moving.
Yeah, that was
in time. So this little thing, it looks like it's always worked. But it takes quite a journey to get there. And then to get cans to go from a full layer of cans to go down and behave in single file one at a time when they weigh next to nothing. All they want to do is fall over. So there's all those cans. We had 4 or 5 different iterations of a depalletizer, taking cans in line, doing this, it was heaps of different challenges in order to get it to work.
You could go out with a checkbook and buy all those things. And a brewery this size couldn't afford that.
If you buy a $100,000 can line, the odds are you still probably got to give it cans. You still probably got to maybe hands pull a thing and seam it. Might only be one head.
So like it's worth it.
Yeah, this one's got a little inkjet printer that prints the best before date on the bottom. They'll cost you 10 grand, but we got one off eBay.
What I saw down the bottom.
Yeah, that's a little. That's an inkjet printer. It just prints the best before date on the bottom.
Oh wow. No worries, lads. Well, thanks for everything, and I think you've got a lifelong customer here, and I think you've got many more in the mountains. So thanks for everything you do, and thanks for keeping us pissed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for all your stories.
Thanks for coming up and
Merry Christmas.
Sacrificing most of your morning and afternoon waiting for us to finish layer of cans.
Just put Michelle in the shop. It's fine.
Oh, she's good when I went in there. Better customer service than you, mate.
Yeah, that's not hard. Well, thank you very much, lads, and look forward to having many of your beers over the holiday times.
Thanks. Cheers, Brad.
Cheers.